Hey YouTube, it's me again, back for part whatever, I don't even remember, it's been so long, but today I got a shipment of parts in, and today we're going to work on the carburetor, since I have it all here, and I've got it all apart, and I've got it all clean, so I think, I don't know if I'm going to make my deadline or not, or my goal. I kind of doubt it, but I'm gonna shoot for, I want it to at least be running by April, and since I got the parts in that I did today, it should go relatively quickly. All I really have to do is put this carburetor back together, put the head back together, clean up the sleeves, put them in, put the pistons back in, all that stuff, you know, so it's not too much. Anyway, let's put this carburetor back together, shall we? Let's see if I can't move you. Get you a better look at what we're doing. Okay. We're gonna start here with the base. This is the base of the carburetor. Got the little idle plate in there, I guess you could call it. This carburetor is apart in 3 different sections: the top, the middle, and the bottom. This is the bottom, and we're gonna see if I can figure stuff out here, but we're gonna go ahead and attach it to this middle section. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and attach this middle section on this, and I didn't mention it before, but this is just a standard ensign snail shaped carburetor. So what we're gonna do here, so we have this, I don't know what you call it, I think it's like a suction tube or whatever, but that threads into right here, and it goes through the whole carburetor and keeps it together. So how do I want to do this? You'll see once it's together what it looks like. Move the camera up a little bit, since it's being technical. There we go. Okay. So that goes on there, like so. I'm trying to think what way this faces. It goes this way. Okay. So there's that. That goes like there. Your choke rod, or no, not choke rod. Your throttle rod would come in here, right in here. Turn that plate in here, and got your choke rod right here, and the plate in there. Don't know if you can see that or not, but it's in there. And let's see, I gotta remember how this thing goes together. It's been a while since I've taken this thing apart, but I think I'm missing. Hold on a minute. That seems more reasonable. Actually, before we put these together, we have something else we have to do first. This is actually the metal body of the carburetor, not the other part. Made in the USA. And in the package of parts I received today, I got this brass float. I had to solder it onto this whatever you call it now, whatever holder thing. But I finally got that soldered on. Took me a while, but yeah, it's just soldered on like that. The original float that was actually in this carburetor, fun fact, is made of cork. A cork carburetor float. Now that's something, ain't it? You don't see these very much anymore. And this actually came out of this carburetor, and I'm surprised it wasn't absolutely destroyed. So I'm going to keep this just for a souvenir out of the project. You never see these in this good a shape anymore. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and put this guy back in here like that. So I'll see if I can't do it. There we go. Then I have a little screw that goes through the back here and hooks into where that latch or that pin is, and acts as a pin, I should say. Okay, so right here you can see me putting that that nut back in for the float, and well, before this clip, actually I added a clip in here that I didn't include in the video where I put the float in, but I actually put that float arm in backwards, so I soldered it on backwards, and I had to figure out what I did wrong, so I just cut that out and I did it the right way and then put it back in. But as you can see, I'm doing a voice recording because when I recorded this it was about 4 in the morning. But as you can see there, that's the needle on the right and the seat on the left. It's a free floating needle, and it goes in the carburetor like that. Just screws in there, and that needle rests on that float arm. And as you can you might notice I'm kind of testing it to make sure and looking at it, and I actually compared it to the original float to see if I had put that float arm on right, since I did it wrong the first time. So as you can see me, I'm examining it there and making sure I just did it right, because the first time, the only reason I found out it wasn't right was because, well, the float didn't travel up near as far as it should have, and it kind of worried me. So I took it out and checked it with the original float, which I should have done before, and found out it was incorrect. So, and as you can see me right now, I'm actually getting the gasket for the strainer cage, and that is where the gasket strained and where the gas actually fills up the bowl where the float is. And as you can see, I have the gasket right there, and along with the top of that strainer cage, and I'm putting it on there. As you can see, I actually had a little bit of trouble putting it on there because it wouldn't stay, but I eventually did get it. So I guess that's that. And before I made this video, I actually cleaned up every part really good, like thorough cleaning between carburetor cleaner and soapy water with Dawn dish soap. So that's that. Just putting on the top of the strainer cage there, and the nut as well goes right there. Just threads on. And I'm repositioning it to make sure that gasket gets a good seal on there. And I don't tighten it with a wrench in this video because, well, I didn't have the wrench on me, and I figured I'd just do it later because I'm gonna adjust it I'm gonna have to adjust it to make sure to figure out where where the gas line will run. So as you can see, that's the plug that the drain plug actually to the carburetor. When your carburetor's full of gas, if you unscrew that plug, you'll drain the carburetor of all your fuel, and that might actually be really useful in the future if I flood my engine, which I probably will. but it's in really good shape and I'm happy with it. So, kind of glad. As you can see, that's the bottom of the carburetor, as I had stated before. And actually, that does not go there. That is one of the top portions of the carburetor. That's the middle part right there, as I stated before also. And that houses the throttle plate. Or, no, that's not the throttle plate, my bad. That's the choke plate. That bottom houses the throttle plate. And as you can see there, I'm just putting the pieces, stacking them on top of each other as they should be assembled. And I sped up the video here too. And that's the top portion right there. That that part right there that I'm holding the suction tube screws into and holds the carburetor together. The reason I sped up this portion of the video is I have a lot of trial and error in this video. I'm trying to figure out how this carburetor goes together again, because when I actually took this carburetor apart, it was fall, and now it is spring. So I figured if I'm going to have some trial and error, I might as well speed it up a little bit and get past the boring part of that. But as you can see, I'm trying to put the suction tube in there, which actually shouldn't even go there yet, which is kind of unfortunate, because I was still trying to figure out where that thing went on that whole piece. Took me a couple tries to get it to either fit right or go together the right way. And as you can see, I tried screwing it in the top and then putting it down inside the rest of the carburetor. But, well, that didn't really work either. So I had to take that out and disassemble the whole thing again, as you can see there. And actually, I finally got it right here. You had to go through the bottom of where that that float is, the brass float. And now I'm positioning that top piece to where I can put that brass tube in right there. And actually, that tube right there isn't really fixed in place right now either. I had to pretty much kind of, well, I wouldn't say break it off, but break the seal between the brass metal in that tube, so I could get it to position the right way. But I'm gonna fix that. I'm just gonna put a little bit of JB Weld on there. I don't want to have to mess around with brazing it or whatever. I don't want to solder it either, because soldering is kind of a pain on these old things. But I figured JB Weld has worked for me in the past, so I might as well just try it now, or use it now again, because it won't be going anywhere anytime soon. So as you can see, I'm finally getting it all together, and I'm trying to assemble it the right way, getting that tube to fit in there and all those pieces together. It was kind of a pain, not gonna lie. So these type of carburetors I've never messed around with. I've messed around with an H&M carburetor, but I haven't messed around with an old 90-year-old carburetor like this Ensign type deal carburetor that looks like a snail shell. And I can't find anything online about them either, which is also very entertaining. So I figured I might as well just put it on video, because, well, if someone else has the same problem like I did when I was trying to figure out how this thing went together and came apart, I'm hoping this video will help them out a little bit. So, okay. Carburetor's still going together. I think I'm still trying to get that tube to fit, which I'm tightening it right there to its final resting place. Making sure everything is to spec there. and putting the rest of the carburetor on the base finally, which is a good thing. And I'm kind of having trouble getting that thing to seat flat, as it should. So I take that nut and the bottom plate, the drip plate, and I tighten it on there real quick to get that to seat down correctly, actually, which worked very well. And as you can see, I just went to go get a wrench, actually, for that plate. And as you can see, the video is back to normal speed for this part, because the carburetor is together finally, besides a couple of parts, which would be the idle screw and one other type of screw. I have no idea what it is, but I put it back on anyway, which is because it's needed in some way, shape, or form, which I have yet to figure out, but finally getting it on there and tightening it down. And let's see, what am I still tightening it down? As you can see, it finally seated, and I thought I was actually done at this point in the video after I tightened that down, but I found that screw and for that bottom, which you'll see here in a minute. But yeah, kinda just looking at it, inspecting it, making sure I have everything. Oh, and that's forgot to tell you about that. That goes on the top of the carburetor. It messes around with your air and fuel mixture, which is why it's called the air and fuel mixture screw. And if you have a rough running engine, it'll most likely be that. Either that or spark. But if you do have a rough running engine and it's because of your fuel, I would go to that first, mess around with it, turn it left or right, and see if you can get your engine to run a whole lot better. Which I'm pretty positive I'll do when I start the thing up. And there, I think I'm going to get a ratchet, or not a ratchet, but a socket for my ratchet, because I didn't have the right size with me at the moment. And I try and unloosen that plate bolt on the bottom, but I end up just loosening the whole entire assembly from the pardon me, from the whole carburetor, the drip plate. Okay, and I'm fiddling around with it, and I finally got it broke loose, but I ended up turning the whole plate with me. So I take that plate off, and I put, oh, that should be coming up here in a second, after I get that off. That bottom screw, and I'm making sure everything is in the right place, I guess, which is should be. I think what I'm doing right there is I'm positioning the strainer cage to where that gas line will come in. As you can see, I have that nut right there finally, and I do eventually get it in. So there's that. As you can see, I got that nut in, which is good. And I put that plate back on, the drip plate, along with that nut that screws the whole carburetor together and tightens it down. And at that point, the only thing I had to put on was the after that was the idler screw, which I didn't do on video because I completely forgot about it. But I do get that whole carburetor apart and put back together, which is absolutely awesome. And that just puts one less thing to do on the list for the tractor. So as you can see, I'm tightening down that plate again to tighten the whole carburetor back together, because I have no intention of taking this carburetor apart anytime soon unless I absolutely have to get this thing running, which I'm highly excited about. And as you can see, the carburetor is finished. So I guess I'll just say this now. Thanks for watching. Thanks for wrenching with me. And we'll see you in the next one. So, talk to you later.